troubles blow away. And oh, yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. It is Brian Callies with Brian Callies Ministries, and you're watching another episode of Two Pastors, Their Guests, Keeping It Real. We're going to have an amazing show for you guys today. We have got Pastor James Kirkwood. James Kirkwood is with the was with the Memphis Police Department. He's now retired. He was a colonel with Memphis Police Department, and he is now a pastor. He's been a pastor for a while, and he's devoted most of his time now, I think, to being a pastor and to do some of those kind of great things. And we are going to just have a great show today. The topic of our show is, what is the cause of all this division? And in this show, our job is keeping it real. So we're going to have those real, honest, one-to-one, conversations, trying to get out what really people are feeling, not wait till we all kind of go into their private worlds and talk for real. We're going to talk for real right here. And so please enjoy the show. Make sure you like the page. If you're watching us on Facebook, go ahead and make your comments, those kind of things. If you're watching us on YouTube Live, go ahead and also click on the page, click on that little bell notification, subscribe to the page so that you won't miss any of these great episodes that we have coming up. And so now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce my wonderful guest, my friend, Pastor James Kirkwood. Again, Pastor Kirkwood retired from the police department. He was a colonel with the police department, and that's where I first met him and kind of knew him. But I also knew him as a pastor as well. So he's just got a heart for people, a heart for really wanting to make a change and try to help people to get to a better place. He's got a heart for children and a heart for the city. But he's my friend, my brother, and just wanted to welcome you to the show. How are you doing, Brother Kirkwood?
Good, Brian. It's good to you to see.
Got a little bit of lag there. You want to try that again? How are you doing, brother?
Hey, I was just saying, Brian, I'm glad.
Well, grateful to have you. Grateful to have you. It looks like you're breaking up just a little bit, so we might have to see if your connection's good there. I think we were working a little bit earlier, but so today on the show, what we're going to be talking about is, what is the cause of all this division? We've had a lot of things come up here lately with, we've had COVID that forced everybody kind of into their homes and away from some of the community stuff. And I think maybe that led as part of all this, but then we ended up with something happening on with George Floyd, and then that kind of was maybe a problem that opened up some thinking about racism and that kind of deal. And then we started doing the protests, and we ended up, that grew to riots. And then we're talking now about some of the things about like defunding some of the police, but there's so much tension. There's so much tension, not just on the race side, but just on people in general. And so just wanted to get your take, Brother Kirkwood, what you think, just kind of a top level view of what you might think is going on in the world today.
I think I'm gonna move, Brian, to if how
Let me cut that out while he's trying to find
you
another
told me I
location.
was. Yeah, you said I was breaking up, so
There we go.
I
I think
decided
I
to go
can
to another room.
I can hear you and see you pretty good now. So
Okay, so what I was saying.
So what I was trying to say is, did you get to hear what my intro there was?
Yes, I heard you good. I heard
Okay.
you right.
What are you thinking is the cause of all this tension and turmoil on an overall scale before we dive into the particulars? What world do you think is going on?
Brian?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that'll be better.
There
Like
we
this.
go. There
I
you go.
apologize,
Nah, you're
everyone.
good, man. You look good.
I think I was talking to someone earlier today, and I think for America, uh, and I well, let me say it this way: when I was growing up as a kid, the saints used to sing this song in church, and they would sing the song, "Search me, Lord, turn the light from heaven on my soul, search me, and if you find anything that shouldn't be, take it out and straighten me, for I want to be right, I want to be whole, I want to be saved." And so, as life goes in our journey, God is always revealing to us as individuals, to us as a community, to us as a nation, what is wrong with us, right? And what happens so often is that when we see it, there are those who don't like what we see. And, if we want to get it together, you accept whatever it is, and you straighten it out. They was praying, straighten me out. I want to be right. I want to be whole. And for years, our nation has ignored a lot of the cries of the African American community, uh, a lot of the cries of, the less fortunate, and you know, we come right back around to this same day that we was dealing with the same problem we've been dealing with for years that has gone unanswered, ignored, and now people are responding saying, "You need to get this right." Okay, and so you hear an outcry of young people, black and white, saying something needs to change. We need to get this right. It's been too long. We've been dealing with the same issue for years now. It makes no sense. And so I think the frustration of having to deal with it again is what you see and you hear, which is not a bad thing. It really is something that says, let's get this right. Let's do this right. It is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable to even have a conversation about it, Brian, is uncomfortable. But the more you talk about it, uh, the discomfort will ease, it will cease, and you can begin to be honest with each other and have real dialogue so that changes that need to be made can be made.
Amen. Amen to that. So you said the change that needs to be made can be made. That dialogue, I agree with you totally. Only by us talking about it and bringing it up. I mean, sweeping under the rug obviously isn't working too well. I think we've done that plenty. Obviously, we're going to have to address things in the areas at least that we can address, and see if we can't, make a positive change to all this. So,
Yeah.
As a pastor, and I know you're a pastor and have been for quite a while, you can probably see that there is a few reasons for all the division. And from a godly point of view, what do you think on a godly point of view is, and we're looking at scripture, do you see that some of this is expected or spoken about, talked about in the Bible?
Well, yes. Oh man, listen. We know that for who was it? James. I think it's James. James talked about uh, division. Paul talked about division and how uh, division came because people began to focus on their own side, uh, focusing on what's best for them individually and not what's best for the group. Uh, and you see that a lot of times within this nation. That's what you hear a lot of people saying, that there's one group within our society that is focused on taking care of themselves,
Hmm.
while leaving the others exposed to little, exposed to danger, exposed to problems, exposed to inadequate health care, inadequate educational system. Uh, and so Corinthians, Paul talks about this. But then the Bible also says, about when the wicked is in rule, how the
Hmm.
people uh, mourn. But when the righteous is in rule, when people are doing what is right, when they're doing what is just, people begin to thrive. People begin to uh, be happy because everybody's being thought of. And so you do see where we have a lot of contention in our nation, uh, and you hear this backwards and forward. I really hate this political stuff,
Hmm.
Republican, Democrat. I really, for the church, what I hate is I often see the church choosing political sides, as as though one political party is more Christian than the other. And I'm like, come on, guys. Uh,
You agree with you?
One has some good stuff, the other one has some good stuff, but neither one of them is walking in a Christ-like manner, biblical principles. Uh, so you just see a lot of things going on, but we do know that if you want to have peace and if you want to have unity, unity is something that has to be worked for. It just don't happen. All right, you have to work to obtain unity, which means you
Oh,
have to
that's a good
sit and
point.
reason with one another. In the scripture, Paul commended them to work, strive for the unity, strive to gain unity amongst brethren. And if you want, and we know this here for family, we have to strive for unity. We have to work at it. In business, if you're the leader, you have to work at unifying the group. It does not come easy. All right, it just don't happen. But you have to work at it, and that means sometimes you have to give. You have to forget about what you want and think about what the other person wants. You have to think of what's best for the group at all times. Um, and when that happens, things tend to move smoothly, and we tend to walk in unity. But unity is something that you have to work for. It just don't happen.
I'm into that. Yeah, I agree with you. You and we worked together for a little while, and we do a lot of things in the city and in the county that would encourage unity, and a lot with pastors and that kind of thing. But a lot even outside of that, you did so much impressive work there in the police department, because one of the things I saw that you were doing is trying to get build a relationship with people in the community as well, not just being a heavy-handed, you know, enforcement of the, officer. Even though you had to enforce the law, that's what's part of the job of being a policeman, but you worked really hard to try to get a relationship with the community, COP programs, things like that, right?
Right, right. But now, see, I understand, and a lot of officers understand. Matter of fact, Memphis Police Department is real good in the fact that in building relationships. For us to do anything, there has to be some relationship capital going on. You have to begin to strategize through relationship building to be able to make a difference. I knew that. I knew that the only way I could reduce crime was through building relationships with community partners, bringing
Amen.
all
That's
those
great.
community people to the table so that we can work on a solution, which meant that I had to be willing to listen. All right. In order for us
Mm.
to unify around bettering our community, I had to be able to listen. I couldn't be the one with all the ideas. All right. I had to be willing to move some of my ideas off the table so that individuals, community people, could put their ideas on the table. People like Caswell, who was an awesome guy uh, when it came to moving forward. Pastor Holloway, Sammy Holloway, Bishop Ed Stevens, uh, 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 Pastor Ellis out there in Fraser, even in Whitehaven, when it came to doing the same work, bringing people to the table, community activists, Bridget Bradley, uh, working with the council people. I mean, we hit everyone at the table because if we should know that the problems we deal with belongs to us all, whether they be crime, blight, social, emotional. All these problems that's going on in our community will need all of us to sit at the table to solve them and to come up with a strategic plan to make to push us forward so that we can see success. And so, that's how I've always believed. I'm a firm believer in the scriptures that come, let us reason together. We have to go and reason with God and talk with God. And so we have to also talk with people, to make a difference. Brian, you married, I'm married. We have to talk, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
So that we can stay in unity. We there has to be a conversation going on. And sometimes you don't want to talk about the things that's the elephant that's in the room.
yeah.
But somebody needs to say, you do know that elephant sitting over in that corner. We need to talk about that. If that
Amen.
elephant is going to ever get out of this room, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. Uh,
The
and I
Bible
say
even
that to
talks
say,
about don't let the sun go down on your anger. When you're angry at something, you got a problem. Don't put that off. Then it gets
yeah,
roots. Then it gets bad stuff, and it starts to
yeah,
dig in
you
and
got to deal with
infest.
it. You got to deal with it. And here's something that we don't like to talk about in America between black and white, but we have to talk about racism.
Hmm.
We have to talk about racism. We have to talk about implicit bias, conscious bias, which is even worse. You have to have a conversation about these things. We have to talk about uh, what is the church role uh, in these situations, because you don't want the church divided. One side is over on this side, and one side is on this side. Even when it comes to justice, when you see this criminal justice reform, police relations. Which side will the church be on? All right, and that's what there has to be a discussion about it, even amongst the African American community. While we want criminal justice reform and we want police community relations intact and good and solid, uh, there's a conversation that's even going on in those communities about what does defunding really mean. All right, because I would, among the people I deal with, they don't want the police department to be defunded, as in taking money away, but they do want some changes to be made, within it. And so that is what they're focusing on. That's what people. But you got to have the conversation. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to have a conversation. Someone asks me, "What do they mean?" I ask them, "Go ask them.
Go ask them
Go
what they
ask
meant by
them.
that. Yeah.
Whoever said it, go ask them what did they mean. Because you asking me what they mean, I don't know what they meant. All right, when they said it, but you need to go and ask. Go ask and have the question, have the conversation about what does it mean. If you want to walk in unity, and if you want to take away division, you got to talk. Two sides have to come together, and they have to sit down, and they have to have real dialogue about what's going on. And
Amen to that.
answering your first question, why is this happening? Why is the division happening? Why do you see all this protest and everything that's going on? It is because no one would talk. No one is listening to the other. All right. And at some point, you have to sit down and you got to talk to people about their concern, what their problem is, so that you can have an understanding. You can have a meeting of the minds, and you can get somewhere. A lot of times, you really are in agreement with what the person is saying, but because you all are at odds with each other or in fear that these people are against me, we are opposed to one another. We ain't sitting down talking, and it probably is that we probably disagreeing on 75, disagreeing on 25% and agreeing on 75%.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that,
But we don't know it. We don't know it because we won't talk. We won't sit down and talk. And that's what you'll hear a lot of times. You hear the people saying, listen, we want you to sit down and talk with us. We want to talk. We want us to sit down and talk about these things. And yes, when you first sit down and talk, a lot of times it is heated. All right? It
mhm.
is heated. Uh, but man, listen, hey, among men, don't we have heated conversations sometimes? Before things are resolved, before things smooth out, but you got to go through it, and then all of a sudden you'll see that, wait a minute, okay, they are listening to me. I am listening to them. We can work on some solutions.
Well,
Uh,
even as a
and
married man, our talks aren't always as civil as I'd like them to be. We start off heated sometimes, and
yeah,
that's how, I guess that's how human nature works. Sometimes we got a problem, and we're going to make sure that we show our emotions along with that too. But then
yeah,
at some
yeah.
point we start
I want
really
to be
talking.
heard. Yeah, I
Well,
want to be heard. You want to be heard. You loud. You want to be heard. You want to be heard. They want to be heard. Yeah,
yeah,
but okay. If we said, if we, here's something I love. The Memphis Christian Pastors Network. What
yeah,
we do when we do table talk, when we sit down around the table and we talk about difficult conversations around racism, around politics, uh, around black and white issues, we sit
mhm,
and we talk about those things. And when we do it, what we have created was a safe place to have that conversation, whereas all individuals at the table can be honest and put their thoughts on the table without ridicule, without you know, being looked at funny.
yeah, yeah,
We can have a real conversation. It is safe. And so when people know, if we enter into a negotiation or a safe conversation, that listen, we may disagree, but we need to talk till we can find agreement. There
amen.
has to, hopefully when we leave this table, we will have some understanding, we can have some clarity. I can know what you mean, you can know what I mean, and we can find out, we might change each other's opinion about certain things,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
hopefully what we're going to do is walk away from this table together. All right, we're going to walk away together, and that's what's important.
I agree with you completely, because I mean that's the premise of why God gave us this show, is that, if I just look at life the way I've been looking at life, it's kind of one sided. I never get to hear your point of view, so my point of view never changes. But if I shut up long enough and I listen to you and let me hear your point of view and let me hear about something you got on a topic, it might change mine. Or it might keep me
Yeah,
just as, rock solid as where I was. But the point is that we're never going to be really coming together, I think, until we have these conversations and talk about real stuff, so that you aren't my opposite. You aren't my enemy. You could even have, like my wife and I, when they talk, there's some things that we don't agree with, but she never became my enemy. And when she does, that's when these words like divorce and all that kind of stuff come in. Because,
mhm,
but you know what? She's got some really good points that have challenged me big time. Things I didn't even think about. And then she'll say it a certain way, and it just helps me to see that, hey, Brian, you weren't seeing it all clearly. You weren't looking at it like this from that point of view. And it
yes,
radically just messed with my head. But it turns out, I think she was right on some of those. So that little humbleness of admitting that is what I'm hoping the show will produce. I'm hoping people can get to where we're going to listen to each other enough that it's not just shouting an opinion or your point of view, but you're actually listening to each other, trying to understand maybe why the other person thinks that way. Because that's a whole different world right there when you try to understand.
yeah, yeah, it is.
Because I'm sure you and I
But I
talk
think,
long enough, we're going to find out places that we don't agree with eye to eye. But if we can talk to each other and come together, I think we can walk away smarter. I think we can walk away more unified.
We can. Here's the, Brian, we don't always have to agree. I don't think there are certain things we should agree to, but certain things, I don't need a duplicate of me. Uh, I really need you to be different from me because you can add to me,
That's a
right?
good point.
You can add to me. If you're going to be exactly like me, then there's nothing to add. All right. And for me to become better, I need the part of you that's not like me. All right. I need your
Wow.
thoughts. I need your ideas. Uh, I need it. All right. I need how you see it, your viewpoint on an issue, because so oftentimes you can watch a movie. You can watch a movie and you'll see it one way. Another person in the room is seeing it another way. Another person is, and everybody's seeing it right. All right. And though the person who wrote the movie, he is sitting there saying, yes, all right, they get this here. They get this evolution of thought that's coming about. All right. To bring forth the whole idea, the whole picture. And so I think, the beauty of having conversations around racism, around uh, police and community relationships,
Mm-hmm.
uh, around COVID-19, what to do about it, uh, around even politics, around conversations that's difficult, is that we begin to learn a lot more than what we knew. And we begin to see it from another person's perspective, another person's vantage point, viewpoint, which makes it best for us, which makes it better for us. And I think, and we shouldn't be afraid of that. You
Agreed.
know, you shouldn't be afraid of it. You should be welcoming of a new idea. And I'm not talking about some far-fetched stuff because someone would say, yeah, you better be careful what these people saying. These people saying a whole lot of old crazy stuff. I'm not talking about crazy stuff. I'm talking about being wise. Uh, you know, you want to take counsel with a multitude of wise men and women who can give you their viewpoint. All right. So I'm not talking about going to have conversations or get ideas from people who are so far-fetched to the left or to the right. I'm talking about wise counsel, conversating with wise men, proven men and women who have lived before us lives, not perfect lives, but lives where they know what they're talking
Amen. As we were talking about, again, the topic is what is the cause of all this division, and we've had a lot on the news, and then I've had a lot of people on the show come in and talk. But I think there's something underneath all of this that is encouraging the division part. What you and I are talking about is steps into unity and ways of getting through that. But I think there's also a part that we need to be wise and recognize when our enemy is doing something to intentionally cause trouble. I think it's good to keep your eyes open for stuff like that. And
about. Oh, absolutely.
so I think, in my opinion, I think Satan is real. I'm a believer in the Bible. So if I believe all the good stuff, I've got to also believe the stuff that the Bible speaks about Satan. And I think
Yeah.
one of the big things that he focuses on is the concept of divide and conquer. I think he's done that for a while because that theory works. And if we are divided, then we're not as strong as we were. And we could
Yes.
be, as long as we're divided. And I think the enemy is doing a darn good job right now of showing us what division does. And I think he's
It makes us
playing a
weak.
game.
It truly makes us weak. All right? It makes us so weak. A house divided cannot stand. Uh, our nation will be in terrible trouble if we continue going down this divisive divide that we're on. I'm praying for leadership that can unify us. That's one of my prayers. My daily prayers is God bless us with leadership that can lead and unify, because it's not good. Uh, Bless us with leadership that does not cast confusion. Uh, the word tells us that God is not the author of confusion. And when you see confusion, you know, this ain't right. Now, I was raised as a child, and they would tell us that. My mama said, baby, well, you see a bunch of confusion going on, it's the very work of the devil. All right.
Mm.
And I'd be like, really? Well, as I got older, I was like, I see what mama was talking about.
No, no, you see it.
But the scripture tells us, the scripture tells us, God is not the author of confusion. And when you see a bunch of confusion, when you see leadership that brings about confusion, you have to raise your hand and say, something ain't right about this, because it shouldn't be. It just should. And I think, someone said to me not too long ago, they said, well, Jesus caused a bunch of confusion. And I was like, no, he didn't. The people who was around Jesus and they had peace. They was like, wow, man, this man is so sound and so wise. It was the enemy that came, who did not want Jesus to flourish and did not like the success that Jesus was having, that brought about the confusion, and would throw out questions. Who is my neighbor? That's where the confusion came. And so I think it's real important that we pay attention to those amongst us who throw out, uh, who cast confusion within the mix. Uh, uh, Even those who sow discord among the brothers, who's always saying this person ain't this person ain't that, this person ain't that, throwing discord. You, Brian, you thought he was pretty good, and then all of a sudden they start dropping, as the young people say, dropping salt on
Mm.
the individual, sowing discord. But the Bible says that God hates the individual. Seven things God hates, and some of the, that the one who sows discord among the brothers, because the person that's sowing discord breaks up unity. It
Mm.
tears away unity. All right, you know, it was fine until you start telling that Kirkwood, he stole something when he was a little bit boy. He went to juvenile court for this. He did this. He been in prison. He lived in just dropping
Saying it in a
salt.
negative
Uh,
way too.
yeah, you're saying in a negative way, uh, bringing negativity, because what you're trying to do is take the person off of the pedestal or off of the high position in the mind of the individual that they were talking to. All right. This person looked at this person in a positive way. You begin to sow discord to take away the positivity that the person was feeling about the individual. All right. That's discord. And discord, man, is horrible. It is horrible. And God hates it. God hates it.
God hates it. There
And
you
we
go.
see it. Yeah, and you see it. You see it constantly. Even in our city now, discord. When you hear some people don't like Michael, some people don't like Up to Vote 901, some people don't like MCPN, some people don't like PCCNA, don't like the Baptists, and they'll start throwing salt on them. And what they're doing is throwing discord. All right. And what did our parents used to tell us? If you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all. Just be quiet. All right. If anybody's gonna say something negative, let it come from somewhere else. It ain't gotta come from you. But that's individuals, saying, and you be like, well, what is about them you don't like? You know, do you know them? Do you know what they're standing for? What they are doing? Well, they ain't doing nothing. Well, do you know that? All right. And so uh, that's the enemy at work. That's the enemy at work. And we have to really work against that. Not by, I don't think, Brian, not, I'm this guy who is just, have always been about, let's handle the business. Let's not pay attention to all of the naysayers and all the people who speak negative. Let's just go out here and do what we're supposed to do. And it will speak for itself. The
Yeah.
work will
Yeah.
speak for itself. But I am a firm believer that the way you shut up the enemy's mouth is you go out and do the work. You
Do
go
the
and do the
work, and
work.
that will shut up the enemy's mouth. I like that.
With Nehemiah and Sanballat, you know, Sanballat was talking and saying, "Come on, we gonna talk and everything." And Nehemiah said, "I ain't even got time to build yet. I'm working. All right, I got to build this wall." And I think that should be the focus of all of us who are out here working to make a positive difference in our community. That we need to be about work, all right, doing the work, and we shouldn't let anyone come and make us uh, disconnect from those other individuals who are doing the work. You and I have worked together. We do work together. Uh, and I refuse to let anybody disconnect me from the work that you do because it's good work. And I know when I call on you and say, "Brian, I need you over here," you come, all right, because you trust the work that I'm doing is good work. And so that's what I think we should really be focused. And then when those of us who are doing the work begin to unify and doing
Mhm.
our work, around solutions, it will begin to grow. Momentum will build and the unity will catch on. And you'll start seeing us walking together. Though we may be part of different organizations, you will see us walking together because all of us want the same end, and that is an awesome city, an awesome country, an awesome America that is good for everybody that lives in America, citizen and visitor and stranger. All right, that's what we all want. None of us want anything different. I don't think all of us want that.
I agree with you, brother. The and I look at it. Of course, now you're not all of our audience is maybe believers, but we're talking on the show as two pastors and their guests, keeping it real. So you got two pastors right here, and so I got to keep bringing up the God thing. I believe that when God gives you a mission and He gives you a vision on things, that it probably, if you're going to do something great, you're going to irritate the devil and you're going to irritate some of his helpers and you're going to irritate people who don't want to see something good happen. And they're going to come after you to try to tear that down sometimes. And I think that was a really wise idea. I actually came to you for some godly advice, some, as my pastor always says, go get wise counsel. And man, that's what I did with you one time. And that's exactly what I was in. I was in a battle, trying to take something good that we were doing and trying to take that apart a little bit. And you gave me some excellent advice. And your advice was, well, just keep doing what you're doing. That's one of the things that you said. Just keep doing your work. Don't. The rest of this will kind of handle itself. And part of me wanted to defend it with all of my heart and defend it with a sword. But your counsel helped me a lot, brother, because focus on, because if you get your eyes off of what you're trying to do, then the enemy, to me, won. He won exactly
Yeah,
what he was trying to get you to do. Is she was trying to
yeah,
get you to stop doing this good thing and just get off of it in any way he can. And
yeah,
and that and man, and as a guy, as a man, that's what I wanted to do, is defend. I wanted to defend my honor. I wanted to defend the organization I was with. I wanted to defend all this stuff. And a smarter defense was, Brian, just keep
do
doing
the
your
work.
job.
Just do the work. I think Brian is so important. Uh, See, really, when and I'm not saying, guys, I got this down pat. All right, please know that I'm not saying that I walk in this here 100%. I am sure that sometimes my feelings get hurt also. Uh, but part of being mature, this maturity that I'm trying to get to, is that um, the things that people say won't bother me, or don't bother me, uh, especially when what they're saying has nothing to do with what I'm trying to do. Right? What they're saying is only to just irritate you. And so I'm trying to grow to a mature place, whereas uh, words won't just irritate me anymore. I can hear what you're saying, hear all things, prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. That's what the word tells us. Uh, Now, our parents used to say, listen, what you getting mad for people saying stuff that ain't true? Right? If it ain't true, why are you focusing on it?
Mm,
Well, that's exactly what the scripture says. Hear all things, prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. So if you say something to me, I'm gonna hear it. All right. I'm gonna prove it. Let me prove this is this right or wrong. And within myself, all right, within my mind, I'm gonna go and look at what you're saying. All right. And if it's good, I'm gonna hold it. If it's not good, I'm gonna discard it and keep on moving. And you
that's
may never
wise.
know.
That seems
You
wise.
may never know whether I hit whether I uh, whether I held it or whether I disregarded what you said. But I'm gonna listen to what you say, and I think it's real wise that we should listen to what people are saying. It's just a good practice to hear what people are saying. They might be saying something we need to hear. We need to know. They might be telling us something we need to know. Uh, you know,
That's true.
but
That's
I
true.
but and I'm telling you, when we look out here, our young people, the protests, they are saying things that we need to hear. All right, it needs to be said. Some things you might not like it, but man, it is something. People who know me know I am a policeman at heart. I am a pastor at heart. I am a servant at heart. Both police and the church have always been a platform for me to serve the community in which I live. And I love the city of Memphis. I love the community, and I mean when I say the city of Memphis, the people in Memphis, I mean every area I've worked, and I've worked south, north, midtown, and everybody, all the community within it. I just grew to love them, and I enjoyed serving them. Uh, but what helped me to serve them was to listen to them, was to just listen to what the people were saying. Uh, And as a police officer, listen. It is time to listen to what community has been saying for years and really make some real changes. As a church, it's time to make real changes. As individuals, as a community, it's time to make real changes. Uh, and we need to be, mindful that we make changes that's going to benefit our community, our nation, for the years to come, for our grandchildren. All right. We need to be make sure that we're building a community, building America that will be a good place for everyone, all of our young people, black, white, male, female, Indian. It doesn't matter. If you come to America, if you are in America, we should make sure that we build an America whereas citizenship means the same for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Agreed.
and that people will be able to move ahead. An educational system that thrives no matter what community you're in. See, you got to hear that because all communities, all educational centers within our nation is not thriving as they should. But we should make sure that that takes place. Home ownership should be something that we make sure that if an individual wants to buy a home, that he is given all the ammunition, all the information, all the knowledge one would need to be able to do it. Business opportunities, the whole gamut. We should make sure that happens. And I'm a firm believer of this here too, Brian. I was going to say it, in that if you're in leadership, that you understand that you are a servant of the people.
Mm.
If you are in political leadership, church leadership, uh, governmental leadership, you are a servant and you should serve, you should work, to serve the city so that the city will thrive and be successful, and everyone that is there do so. Uh, and when you do that, it will take away division. It will just cause division to go away, all right? Because those who serve is working for the whole group. Do you remember in the New Testament when the church first started uh, in Acts, and there was uh, some of the Gentiles was upset. Some of the Greeks were upset because uh, the Jewish Christians, were not dividing the food,
Mm.
uh, dividing the charity in the manner in which they should.
Yeah. Yeah.
They was leaving out their women, their those who was in need among the Gentiles.
Mm-hmm.
The Jews was leaving them out. They was
Yep.
giving them less, and it caused confusion. But what did wise leadership do? Wise leadership heard what they said. They didn't say, man, y'all making something out of nothing. They didn't say, well, who gave the most? They didn't say none of that. What they said was, wait a minute, let's choose deacons amongst all of us. All right, Jews and Gentiles. Let's make sure we get the proper men and women to be able to handle this task. All right, and let's make sure that this don't happen again. And they begin to distribute the things, the food, the whatever, the, 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 uh, uh, the, they begin to distribute to the needs of the people properly. All right, where everybody was at peace. Okay, and so how and that kept the unity because they see that was working. All of a sudden now, because one group was getting more than the other group, and everybody was pitching in according to how they was, and they were supposed to have the
Yep.
same right as everyone. They was sitting there saying, "No, y'all ain't doing this. This ain't right." All right. And so a flag on the plate. They was waving the flag. Something's wrong. But those in leadership, Peter, in the church, James, all of them came together and they straightened that matter out. All right, they
And they
straightened
were
that
right
matter out.
too. They were right to make
Yes,
that complaint.
yes, they were right. All right, and usually, let me tell you something. Usually, when you hear a complaint coming out, man, it is something. It is saying something is going awry. Something ain't right. We need to pay attention to this. And so that's what you saw going on. And that's what you kind of see that's what you see going on today in society. That's how it tends to happen when people are not being heard. That's what Martin Luther King said. Violent protesters are really acting out of they are the oppressed who've gone unanswered.
Yeah.
Nonviolent
And what
protest,
it,
non,
and it's and I don't.
nonviolent pro,
Oh no, go ahead, bro.
nonviolent protest. Protest comes from protest is the oppressed going unanswered. Before there was a protest, there was a flag on the flag. They were waving
Mm,
hands. They were saying, "You all need to do something about this here. This ain't right. This ain't. We need to look at this. This ain't right." But you kept overlooking it. Kept overlooking it. You was just going back. You said you was going to do something. You didn't do it, and in turn, protest breaks out. Why did protest break out? Because you didn't make a change. You didn't do nothing. Those who had the authority to do it did nothing.
and if they and
That's
then
how
what,
it
to
happened.
me the silliest thing is that if you were in leadership, let's say I want to be the top leader in Memphis, people want to say, well, which side are you going to be on? Well, wait a minute. Now, if you're going to be a good leader, you want to be on both sides. You want to be equally supporting, helping. You don't want to pick a side. You want to be unified. If you're accepted on every angle, on every side, man, how much more of a leader could you be? I just think that's so. If I ever was to be, that's one thing that everybody always has asked me. If they, are you Democrat or Republican? Man, I just don't. I just don't get into that. I don't think Democrats have all the right answers. I don't think Republicans do either. It's more about all right, what works best? What's the best answer? And what serves the people the best way? That's more important to me than picking a side. I think that's so silly.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom used to say, well, I won't say what my mom used to say.
No, I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Damn if you do, damn if you don't. You
Mm.
need to make sure you're damn right.
Oh,
And so when you
I
pick a
love it.
side, you pick what is right. What is right? That's what you need to choose. What is right? This is right. And what is right for me is right for you. All right. Uh, right is right. Wrong is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and there is a difference between
So
the both of them.
I agree.
Uh,
I'm going to ask you a couple quick last minute questions here before we have to roll out, but I do want your advice on that. I just want to give a quick charity shout out, if you don't mind. Give me just a second here. So we're going to do a quick charity shout out for our charity, Saving Lost Kids. So if you guys can see that, Saving Lost Kids. So that's just on an iPad, and that's the website, savinglostkids.org. And I will kick that up for you guys so you can see it. So savinglostkids.org, basically we work on missing, exploited, sex trafficking, trying to prevent all that bad stuff from happening that can happen to children. They end up going missing. That could lead to abuse or one or the other. It led to them going missing. And then that leads a lot of times to the sex trafficking piece. What we found out is that most of it is preventable if the child just knew the safer choices to make and make them, and also if the parents knew what red flags to look out for and how to put some protective measures in place. So please check us out, savinglostkids.org. We'd love to have you as a partner. We do a lot of work in the community. Actually, Brother Kirkwood knows about us pretty well at Saving Lost Kids and some of the things that we do, free child safety IDs, but also just a lot of education and training, trying to keep these kids safe. So please join the team, become a volunteer, become a donor, that kind of thing, savinglostkids.org. All right, Pastor Kirkwood, let me ask you about something. So something that came up that kind of, as I was really thinking about this in the last couple of weeks, about how much tension we got and how much division we've got. And I've had several people on the shows. You guys can look at some of the past shows and you can see. And one of the pastors off air, he wouldn't do it on air. This is what his words were. I'm going to keep them anonymous. Brian, this is, we're talking about the George Floyd thing that led to all the protests and that kind of thing. And his thing is, Brian, this is, in my eyes, a black issue. Why are there so many white guys coming downtown and causing trouble? 80% of the ones that are causing trouble are white guys. We don't want that kind of protest. We wanted a nice, peaceful, we're going to try to get some things out. And we got a bunch of kids that are coming down just causing all kinds of trouble. We don't want that. We'd prefer it if you guys would just leave us alone and let us have our protest. So that's what I was told. He wouldn't say it on the air, though. I kind of get the point, and so I was looking into that. Why? Okay, that's a good question. What are some of those guys doing? And from what I'm hearing in all this, I'm trying to say this so that we can keep our eyes open to something. What I'm hearing is that there's a whole political side to this whole mess. And I was told that there is even people that are paying people to come in and cause trouble, to stir up trouble, to keep up racial division, to keep up where, this side and this side just can't get along. And they're just keeping up all this trouble. And I can see, I don't know if I understand the benefit of all that. What's the good in stirring up, all this trouble? I mean, if they say it's a political thing, I don't know. I guess people are going to vote one way or another because we're in the middle of a lot of chaos, I guess. But most people I spoke to, it didn't sway them at all. They're just seeing this as just a political game that some people are doing to stop the protesting from being peaceful and people being heard and coming to unity. They want to keep this thing going. You have any insight? Anything that'll help me on this?
Um, I don't. I don't know about who's coming in to cause disruption. I don't know anything about that. Uh, I'm careful about saying that because that was also said during the '60s uh, with the Freedom Riders,
Yep.
and they were white and blacks coming from up north,
Hmm.
out east, into the south to protest, to register voters, uh, to sit at lunch counter, that kind of thing. So they said too, they need to just leave us alone. They don't need to come down. So I'm very, very careful. My voice will not be up on that. Uh, I do know, and I do believe that yes, there may be some people who don't mean well
Yeah.
in the midst of the peaceful protests.
Stirring up
The
trouble.
majority of the majority of the protest has been peaceful.
Agreed.
Uh, the enemy will always be around stirring up trouble. It is really important. It is even more important for the leaders to go forth and work hard to keep the group unified, focusing on what the protest is about, the agenda. That is very important. Uh, but it's also important for the leaders in the city to get to the table as quick as possible to bring forth just and right resolutions. All right, that's even more important, so that the enemy can't have room to play or
That's
time
smart.
to play. All right, so wisdom would say on the mayor side, on the police side, those leaders, city leaders side, you need to get to the table as quick as possible to begin to work on uh, real change, real policy change, set things, and you see that's taking place. You saw with
Mm-hmm.
police director, uh, first of all, we making sure that the people knew that the city Tennessee already had a restricted chokehold policy, but you also saw where the police department began to put in some initiatives when it came to uh, officers being able to uh, intervene when they see an officer doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so you saw a change in intervention policy. Well, that came about because of protest, all right. But it came also about those city leaders sitting at the table, all right, working with those groups to put these changes in place. And so that's what I say to them, Brian. Uh, I'm not going to tell, listen, uh, the nation, the Boston Tea Party. I hope people don't think throwing all that tea in the harbor was a peaceful protest. Uh, it wasn't. All right, and please notice that I don't advocate violence at all. I'm just telling you our history and our
Yeah.
nation is one of protest, and that's why our founding fathers made sure that you would be able to protest within our Constitution. And so, that's what I'm saying. Uh, but we need to make sure that we are leaders are working quickly to establish the needed changes that need to take place.
Amen. I agree with you. Pastor Kirkwood, brother, friend, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking honestly with me about some of the harder things. We get to talk about some of the harder things, so I want to thank you for that. And just thank you for all that you've done for the city and being such a blessing in my life. And so I open that door as my friend, but also my brother. I charge you with this. You see me ever that I need some of your guidance or your discipline or your help to understand or see something, I expect you to stand up and call me and say, hey, Brian, let me talk to you about this. So, and that's what I think we need in this world is a little bit more accountability to each other, but also being able to listen and hear from each other, and standing up when we don't see that something's right. So protesting, yeah. I respect it. I absolutely respect protesting, because sometimes you need to stand up and say what is right. And if the godly people don't want to stand up, then you're going to end up sometimes with answers that are not very godly. So you need to stand up when there's something that's happening. And I obviously stand beside the police departments on this, but I also stand behind and beside those that are victims in this, because obviously what happened to George Floyd shouldn't have happened. Just shouldn't have. I'll stand against that. Of course I will. But I don't stand against the police department. So see, there's a difference in that. And so, audience, I would encourage you that.
I think people should know, let me say this here, that the majority of the protest is not against the police department. It is against the police department allowing individuals that should not be police, to stay employed. It is about wrong police. What the protest is about is police department, please correct this problem that continues to come forth from time to time in our nation, where men are being killed, innocent men are being killed. No one is complaining about someone who was shooting at the police being shot. These are individuals, when you look, that brother was not resisting and he was killed. The man who sold cigarettes, killed. Breonna Taylor being killed in her home. That's what this is about. I think
I agree
we
with
do a
that.
disservice to protest when we say they are against police. They're not against police. They're against wrong police.
And
They're
I think
against
it's also, it could be both directions, like in the sense of, in this case, it was obviously a white guy and a black guy, but it's not always having bad policemen is always going to be a race issue. There was one that was just on screaming around Facebook last week, and it was a kid that was, I think he was schizophrenic, and there was a whole group of guys that were just cops, and they were doing a really, really bad job. They were putting the kid down, picking on him, standing on his face until they killed him. They actually killed him. And what everybody was screaming about is, how come no one knows about this? And then someone says, because it's not a race issue. Well, okay. Look, there's bad cops either way. They killed that kid, and it was horrible and horrific, and those cops should get in trouble for that. They should absolutely be in trouble. It doesn't always have to be a race thing, but there are.
It's not always. It's about bad police, man. Black or white or Hispanic, male or female, gay or straight. It's about bad police. All right, whichever you been, bad police doing horrible things, illegal things to the community that they have been sworn to serve and protect. That's what that protest is about. And we shouldn't ever get off focus by what we hear. Keep it on what it's really about, and let the discussion be on that. And then you can have the right solutions brought forth and the right conversation to make sure that we come to a peaceful resolve, a solid, peaceful resolve that will last for years. That will be in place for years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, y'all have been listening to my brother and my friend have just a honest discussion. We get to talk. We talked about a lot of things, but the primary focus was what is causing all this division and about some of the division, and then how to get to that next step where we work on unity. And unity is the key to everything that we're trying to encourage you on the show. So again, Brother Kirkwood, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you so much. Yeah. And till next time, hopefully you'll come back on the show again with us sometime soon. And till next time, man, just prayers for you, buddy. And just keep smiling and doing your thing, man. You're still a light shining in this in Memphis, in this city, in the Shelby County, and for the pastors. And man, I just love the fact that your heart is so on unity. I appreciate you.
All right, man. God bless you.
Love you, my friend. You have a good one. Thank you all
You too.
again for watching us. You've been watching two pastors, their guests, keeping it real. If you have any ideas for future topics, or you would like to see a specific guest, make sure you put it in the comments or send us a message, and we will be happy to try to see if we can't get those for you. So, but you all have a good one, and we will check you out next time on Two Pastors, Their Guests, Keeping It Real. Thank you.